I now give the floor to His Excellency Don Pramudwinai, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs of Thailand.
Mr. President, distinguished delegates, I would like, on the outset, to extend my warmest congratulations for your election as President of the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly. And this congratulations also go to your entire team of the presidency. Please rest assured of Thailand's full support as you undertake to fulfill your important mission. We are at the watershed moment as an international community and as the United Nations. We stand at a point where the decision we make and the actions we pursue can shape the world and shape the course of humanity for years to come. But we can only do it together, guided by our shared interest and based on mutual respect. The COVID-19 pandemic has only exacerbated the inequality gaps. It has reversed at least 4 years of development gains, according to the UNDP, and at a time when the world is trying to recover from the 2 years of pandemic, our problems are compounded with multiple challenges. We are seeing new conflicts on top of global geopolitical tensions. We are experiencing the food crisis, the energy crisis, and the financing crisis. These have had the most detrimental impact on those who are most vulnerable, that is LDC and the small island development states, the SIDS, and vulnerable groups such as women, girls, the elderly, and people with disability. Collective action is certainly needed now. Mr. President, the food crisis has affected us all. This global food insecurity stems from the conflicts, climate change disruption, to supply chain and uneven recovery from the COVID-19. There is thus an urgent need to strengthen multilateral action among like-minded partners, United Nations agencies, WTO, and international institutions in facilitating a constructive dialogue and improving policy coordination to address this crisis. It is certainly vital to keep our global supply chains open for seamless cross-border flows of food, fertilizer, and essential goods, by also making our food system more resilient so that equitable access to safe and healthy food for all can be guaranteed. Thailand is prepared to work in partnership with countries and international organizations to realize this vision. In this context, Thailand welcomes the Black Sea Grain Initiative, established by the United Nations to open a safe corridor for grain transportation that would help ease a global food crisis. This initiative further stresses the importance of international cooperation under the UN's framework in order to respond to new global challenges. In addition to overcoming food insecurity, we also need to overcome health insecurity. As we learned from the pandemic, good health for all is critical. And that's why universal health coverage should be a high priority for us all. We need to ensure access to quality essential health care services and access to safe, effective, quality, and affordable essential medicines and vaccines for everyone. We must continue to promote and protect the right to the highest attainable standard of health as part of our commitment to human rights. We must continue to invest in promoting a more inclusive social protection system for all, as called for by the Secretary General in Our Common Agenda report. To reinforce this, the global health architecture needs to be reformed, both structurally and functionally, to address the current shortcomings and systemic failures of health systems. And that's why Thailand fully supports the development of a legally binding international instrument on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and responses under the WHO. The new instrument must place equity at its heart to ensure self-reliance of developing countries when faced with pandemic, especially through enhancing their capacity to manufacture certain medical countermeasures. With better food and health security, we will be better positioned to putting the Sustainable Development Goals back on track. In doing so, a human rights-based approach is needed to ensure that the rights and basic needs of all persons are guaranteed, especially the rights and needs of those most vulnerable and furthest behind. This will help enhance our resilience and capacity to cope with the future crisis. SDGs serve both ways and both as a pathway and the end goals in ensuring survival of our present and future generations. As we have only 8 years left to attain the SDGs, we need to employ every tool at our disposal, from science, technology, and innovation, to working in partnership at every level to drive this agenda forward. Because without sustainable development, there is no future. We need to promote North-South and South-South cooperation and the integration of 2030 agenda with other cooperation frameworks, both at the global and regional levels. And that's why ESCAP and ASEAN are working to enhance the complementarity between the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal agenda and the 2025 ASEAN vision. Thailand's hosting of the Global South-South Development Expo with ESCAP and the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation in Bangkok last week also demonstrates the importance we place on the development cooperation, especially among developing countries. Furthermore, financing for development and finding innovative sources of finance is key to the transforming SDGs from mere aspiration to reality for all. Thailand agrees with the Secretary General's proposal in promoting cooperation with lending or leading global financial institutions to mobilize finance to drive forward the SDGs while improving financial liquidity for least developed countries. And to promote sustainable development, Thailand has adopted the Bio-Circular Green Economy model, or BCG, as a means to achieve a more balanced development in this recovery phase. The BCG economy model utilizes science, technology, and innovation to encourage the optimization of resources for environmentally friendly economic growth. In pursuing sustainable development, we need to ensure balance between our people-centered approaches and protecting our planet. And to this end, Thailand is ready to work with the international community to contain the triple planetary crisis of climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss. Thailand is committed to promoting international cooperation for the protection of the environment, including on the negotiations on the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework and the international legally binding instrument on plastic pollution. In tackling climate change, Thailand stands firm in our pledge at COP26 last year to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050 and net zero greenhouse gas emission by 2065. And without adequate support, Thailand will be able to increase its nationally determined contribution, or NDC, target to 40% while achieving net zero greenhouse gas emission by 2050. And it is not an empty promise. Thailand will submit our NDC and long-term low greenhouse gas emission drop strategies that reflect those goals ahead of the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP26 at Sharm el-Sheikh. Meanwhile, the pledges of developed countries must also be fulfilled. I urge this country to keep their promise of providing financial, technological, and capacity-building support to developing countries and to deliver on the climate finance goal of 100 billion USD annually as soon as possible. Equal attention should be paid on mitigation and adaptation. Thailand stands ready to work with Egypt and all partners at COP26 in this regard. Mr. President, we need to restore faith and confidence in the multilateralism and our United Nations. An important step to achieving this is to reverse the polarization at its body by working more closely on issues that bring us together. Addressing humanitarian concerns is one such issue. Thailand will continue to work closely with the international community, taking into account the needs of the affected country to address urgent humanitarian challenges through bilateral, regional, and multilateral efforts according to the key humanitarian principles without politicization. We have supported humanitarian work in Afghanistan through the World Food Programme and made contributions for Ukraine through the Ukrainian Red Cross and UNICEF. As for Myanmar, Thailand has worked with partners to provide humanitarian assistance to the Myanmar people in need through various programs at bilateral level, including donation of 1 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines, and through ASEAN. Financially, or financial contributions were also made to support the work of international organizations such as UNICEF, WHO, WFP, and ICRC. As an immediate neighbor with the longest land border, 2,470 kilometers long, it is in Thailand's vital interest to see a quick return to peace and stability in Myanmar. We call on all parties in Myanmar to urgently undertake steps to de-escalate, end violence, and engage in meaningful talks to resolve differences peacefully. Thailand fully supports the constructive role of ASEAN and believes that ASEAN is best placed to help Myanmar through the time-tested ASEAN practice of consultation, cooperation, and consensus. Thailand will continue to play an active and constructive role to support this ASEAN process, as well as the role of Special Envoy of the UNSG on Myanmar. And as a strong believer of multilateralism, Thailand stands ready to continue to do its part to promote multilateral and international cooperation at all levels. Sustainable development and human rights are intertwined and mutually reinforcing. They are vital in ensuring an environment of peace and prosperity. Thailand hereby presents candidacy for the UN Human Rights Council, HRC, membership for the term 2025 to 2027. And if elected, we can help strengthen the Council and its mechanism to reach out to those vulnerable and those furthest behind, and to bring meaningful and real positive changes on the ground. Thailand also firmly believes that a close regional cooperation can complement the multilateral system and reinforce the global agenda. This year, Thailand plays host to Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, meeting under the theme of Open, Connect, and Balance. Such theme signifies the willingness to embrace every opportunity, connect in all dimensions, and balance in all aspects. This highlights Thailand's commitment in promoting multilateral cooperation that will hopefully lead to a more balanced and sustainable development after the COVID-19 pandemic. We look forward to welcoming the world leaders to Bangkok in November, as Thailand is fully open and ready to welcome visitors once again. Mr. President and distinguished delegates, despite the challenges and difficulties at this critical juncture in the history of humanity, Thailand continues to have faith in multilateral system with the United Nations at its core, and we remain confident that the goodwill and shared common interests of humanity will help us make the right decision at this watershed moment, so that we can move together towards a more stable, sustainable, and safer future with no person or country left behind. Now, let me add this very brief account to the end of my statement. A few days ago, a sentiment was expressed by the EU foreign policy chief when he said, "Don't rule out the possibilities of the use of nuclear weapons at the Ukraine crisis." An Oriental saying has it, which could be related to this context. It pertains to the enjoyment of riding a beast, whether it's a tiger or the dragon. But let's put a tiger in this context. Riding the tiger back could be fun and challenging. But no one could enjoy riding its back with no end in sight. The question is how to dismount with safety without killing the tiger. Certainly, the question of how to is daunting. Here, we have a suggestion which has taken all elements into account and definitely not a realpolitik free. A possible breakthrough could be apparent during the month of November, as the third week of the penultimate month of the year offers a golden opportunity for all super stakeholders of the Ukraine crisis to assemble at 3 venues in South Asia as legitimate participants. The 3 venues, one in Phnom Penh for ASEAN Summit, another in Bali for G20, and the third in Bangkok, Thailand for APEC leaders meeting. They could separately or in a series serve as a most appropriate platform for talks to provide possible off-ramp or exit to this high-tension global crisis in Ukraine. The world body, UN, with all its relevant roles and mechanisms to help safeguard peace and stability, could certainly join in at any juncture to add value to these endeavors. So, let's hope that this golden opportunity is not passed up by all the superpowers, super stakeholders with regard to the high-tension Ukraine crisis. I thank you. Thank you very much.
I thank the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs of Thailand.